It's Chris Merrill, everybody.
No, that's
Yay. Hi.
Appreciate that. That's good.
So we're talking about this story about Speaker Mike Johnson.
Yeah.
And there's this video that
moral leader, Mike Johnson.
Great moral leader. You know, he of the no one should have gay sex and I'm going to legislate it or try to, right?
Yeah.
He apparently this old video resurfaces, and this is a story out of Rolling Stone, that he speaks to the Cypress Baptist Church and he tells them that he's installed accountability software on his phone and his son's phone called Covenant Eyes. So that if you do anything like watch porn or do anything unsavory, it immediately tells your accountability partner, which back then was a 17-year-old son.
Yeah.
So whether you watch porn or gambling, whatever you set it up to say is wrong. And Eric, one of our listeners, viewers, was making the argument, you know, if you don't have your own strength of character to say, if I don't want to watch porn, I'm not going to watch porn. If you need accountability software on your phone, maybe you shouldn't be 2 heartbeats away from the presidency, because I want someone who's a little stronger than I need software to make sure that I don't do this.
What is the problem with watching porn? I don't.
Well, apparently if you're Mike Johnson, it goes against the Baptist conventions or the religious moral whatever. I don't know what's wrong with it, to be honest.
How does the software work? Because my understanding was it would tell his son if he was watching porn, and then it would tell him if his son was watching porn.
That's right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah. So you're I'm hearing we double back for some reason. But so you're I think Tony fixed it. So yes,
I fixed it.
Thank you. So you're accountable to that other person. So and maybe he did it more so if his son was watching porn, he'd know right away, under the guise of, we're going to make this deal together, whatever. But it just seems so juvenile. Like, why?
Well, maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. So listen, I've raised 3 teenagers, right?
Right.
And I kind of wish I'd have known about this software beforehand, because I could have then given my son some pointers. Maybe directed him towards some porn that he hadn't encountered before and opened his eyes. And likewise, maybe, you know, as a young man, he could have turned me on to what his generation thinks is hot. Instead, I'm just left with, you know, bushy women doing just missionary position. And these are not the sorts of things that necessarily are my deal, but that's kind of what I thought I had to go to. So I kind of wish that I had, you know, opened my mind a little bit, and maybe he could have helped me do that. Instead, I had to do it the old-fashioned way and just surf the internet myself.
So use Covenant Eyes as a porn radar
training tool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, the family that humps together stays together, and I think that's an important aspect here, and probably what Mike Johnson is clicked in on too. I love that his name is Mike Johnson, and he's concerned about porn. That's a magnificent thing.
Seems to be concerned about all things that are related to sex, and it's one of. I was talking about this story with Nikki Maduro earlier. This man who was the mayor of a small town, I want to say Alabama, and he was a preacher at a local Baptist church. And someone has a picture of him cross-dressing, right? Yeah. And so they bring it out and they publish it and they, you know, spread it around. And the next thing you know, this guy's killed himself.
Right.
It's one of these things where, and I don't know if it's the same thing with Mike Johnson and all, but it just smacks of similarity to me, where me think thou doth protest too much, where you have this extreme hatred of something. Why are you so concerned about it? Like, why does that occupy your thoughts and your time? Unless you have some type of deep-seated need for it and you hate yourself for it, and so you're going to hate on everyone else who does it too.
Yeah, that's why I brought up Larry Craig. Remember, that was the guy from Idaho that was he was all family values and everything, and then he was toe tapping in the bathroom in Minneapolis at the airport. And then, it was just a wide stance, and I only reached my hand under there because I wanted some toilet paper. It's just totally normal. It's what we all do. Yeah. And what you said, of course, rings true. The other thing that I would say too is that perhaps Johnson is, and we're using him as an example. I mean, I think we're talking about a deeper psychological issue beyond just one individual, and maybe he is just uber religious and believes this is the only way they're going to fix America, whatever. But it does feel like maybe there's some repressed sexuality, and that by by repressing other sexualities, you both level the playing field and you give yourself an excuse to go seek out that behavior so that you can
Yeah.
witness it for yourself and live vicariously through other people's sin, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Of course, there's the practical side of the whole thing that confuses me, and that is what happened to private browsers? I mean, it doesn't seem like this would be very difficult to overcome. I mean, he says,
Yeah.
"Oh, now my son will know if I'm looking at porn." Well, don't you have another computer or another cell phone? I mean, don't we all have burner phones for our porn so that our spouses don't find out? Listen, Kim, I talked to
No.
Chris. He's got 3 burners based on whatever mood he's in, with bookmarks on all of them. So yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, to think that a 17-year-old who knows that there's software on there that dad's going to find out is only using that device is
Right.
cool.
Silly.
And to think that this guy is like, well, I'm accountable to my son. Sure you are. Uh-huh. Okay, well, Cricket Wireless says you're not, okay? Because that's
No.
real easy to go get. Yeah.
Of course, today is the Trump testimony going on at the New York civil fraud trial. And already, like, the first thing, Trump hits the stand and it's a back and forth with the judge, right?
Yes.
A
Yep.
judge, by the way, which holds in his hand the future of the Trump organization and how much of a fine that Trump has to pay, and how, whether they retain control of the business, all these things. And Trump comes out swinging. Do you think this is, he knows he's going to lose it, so he's just using it as a campaign opportunity, and is being combative on purpose? Or is just this the way he is and there's really no tamping it down?
Can he answer me both?
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is the persona that he's found has been very successful, and I don't know if he even knows who the real Trump is because he's sort of a caricature of himself.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we see major celebrities kind of do that, especially in the political realm. I once said that about Sheriff Joe Arpaio when I was working in Phoenix, and he called the station to complain about me, which was great. There's nothing like getting under the skin of the officials themselves. Yeah, I think in Trump's case, he knows he's screwed, and so he's
Yeah.
gonna get all of the what we call earned advertising in the business, which is basically news coverage. He's going to get as much as he possibly can. And listen, he's good at it. You can't blame him for it. He's good at it. So it might cost him $250 million and his business in New York. But my God, if he becomes the president, maybe he makes all that back, and maybe his business expands elsewhere outside the state of New York, and this ends up being a good thing for him. I did think it was interesting to see the reporting. Following like Caitlin Collins there at CNN, she's talking about this is what's being said, and here's what the judge said, and the judge is telling the attorney, Trump's attorney, can you get your client under control? This sort of thing. Headline on Fox News is gloves off. Trump and judge lock horns as verbal showdown takes center stage during rare testimony. And to your point about is this just the way he is? I mean, this is again the persona that he's projecting. And it's the persona that others are lifting up to say, look, he's a powerful guy. He's a strong person. And if you elect him, he's going to give you what you want and he's going to fight for you. And listen, you're scared because there are a lot of brown people coming across the border, and that's scary. And there are a lot of atheists who are trying to take away your Jesus, and that's scary. But look, here's a strong guy. And even when they come at him, he doesn't give up. He's a fighter and he's going to fight for you. So, yeah, I think this is all part and parcel with the Trump phenomenon today. I'm just stunned. Did you ever think there'd be a day in America that we saw somebody who had 91 felony counts against him who would be not only leading the party, but crushing it in the polls against everybody
Never.
else?
Yeah, let's talk about those polls because it is Trump leaping past Biden in key swing states. We're talking Nevada, we're talking Michigan, we're talking Arizona, and by quite a wide margin in some of these cases. And so we've got at least 4 or 5 swing states where in a hypothetical matchup between Trump and Biden, Trump is ahead.
Yeah.
What?
He loves Nevada.
Nevada.
Right.
Nevada.
Right. Loves that. Yeah.
I mean, I know when you see polls like this, sometimes, that I've heard that, well, the people that answer the phone during the middle of the day are often conservative. It's not representative of who's really going to the polls. But also when we've seen polls like this, what happens in the presidential race is often it's very tight and one of these too close to call moments. Is it too early for people that are like, whoa, what is Trump even doing close to the presidency again to be concerned? or is this just a poll we let it go?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't ignore it, but I also wouldn't put a whole lot of stock into it. We're 364 days away from the election,
Yep.
so I wouldn't get too wound up. And an awful lot could happen between now and then, and that goes for both sides. Let's remember that one of the big complaints the Democrats have about Biden is that he's old,
Yeah.
and
But
right
so is
now,
Trump. Like
well,
he's not a spring chicken. They're what, like they're 3 years apart or something?
yeah, that's the point I'm getting to is
Yeah.
that they are both old, and either one of them could have an old man affliction like a heart attack between now and then. I mean, we saw what happened with Bernie Sanders last go around. So I don't get too wound up about it right now, but I do think that, and there's more to that poll too, by the way, and I'll explain in a moment if I can just take over your show. Uh,
Please.
that it should be a moment that the Democrats realize is showing some vulnerability right now. And I think that the insiders on the left have known this for a very long time. That despite a lot of positive economic indicators, Main Street still says, listen, I'm paying too much for a gallon of milk and a dozen eggs, and that's
Yeah.
Biden's fault. And they're gonna continue to hold him responsible. The buck stops here, so to speak. The other thing that I thought was interesting about that poll is that it said that Trump would get hammered by a general Democrat. In other words, an unnamed Democrat. Now, these things are always very dangerous because if you attach a name, it shifts things.
Hmm.
So what it's basically saying is, do you believe in sort of the progressive message or Trump, right? But if you flip that and you were to say, let's say it's Biden running against a generic Republican, Biden really gets slammed. If you were to say Nikki Haley versus Joe Biden, she crushes him in these swing states. And so it's not just a Democratic Party problem that their front runner is not an ideal candidate. The Republicans also have a big issue with it's not just the never Trumps in the GOP. It's the moderates who are going, listen, I just can't. I'm not crazy about what Biden's doing, and Fox keeps telling me that the border is wide open and everything else, but yeah, I'm not real crazy about a guy who's got 91 felony counts against him being the leader either. 4 years ago wasn't long enough for me to forget what it was like, although there
Mm.
seems to be sort of a muddied memory of what goes on. So we have to be careful when we look at those sort of generic tests. But I've said this for a long time. In fact, I think I said it with you one time, Kim, when you were on with Nikki, and that is that I still now we're getting closer and closer to me being dead wrong on this, but I still think that Gavin Newsom is going to be the candidate in 2024 for the Democratic Party.
Really? I don't know. He
And I
says
think,
no. He says no, 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 no. I'm not doing it. And
yeah,
he
no,
can't he
of course.
can't step on Kamala Harris. She would have to back down and say I don't want to run, and she's not going to do that.
A lot can happen between now and November of next year.
Mm.
Now, where things get a little bit tricky is that we're nearing the end of the filing deadline to appear in I think 7 states for primaries and caucuses. So if it is going to be Newsom, it's going to have to be one of those brokered convention situations, um, unless he files here, real late. Bill Maher had a segment last week where he was ripping on Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer for running shadow campaigns, and I think there's some validity to that. One of the things Newsom is up against is being a governor of what is probably the bluest state in the nation, certainly one of the bluest states, if we want to consider, Massachusetts, New York, and things like that. But certainly the most populous state. And Newsom decides he's going to go to China and do
And
some,
Israel, right?
and then then he
Yeah.
makes the swing through Israel, and you go,
Uh-huh.
what does the governor of California have any business doing? Talking with Bibi and the others there, is he trying to broker peace in the Middle East? Is his springboard into the election? I mean, maybe. I definitely think he's trying to raise his profile. He also vetoed a number of bills that were pretty overwhelmingly passed by the legislature in Sacramento, and he vetoed those things. And he leaned back on saying, "Well, it's not in the budget." Whether it's
Yeah.
paying the striking workers for unemployment. He said, "Well, it's
Right.
not in the budget. Listen, the EDD is $20 billion in the hole. It's just not in the budget, guys. We just
Right.
can't do it." But that, if he didn't have aspirations beyond this, would he have worried about that so much? I don't think so. I think he would have found the money somewhere. Even if he had just done some accounting tricks to say, "Listen, fraud is the reason that it's 20 billion in the hole. We're gonna shore up."
Uh-oh, you're frozen in time, my friend. Mm. Well, hopefully it cycles back, Tony, and we'll get our Chris Merrill back. Oh, I saw. Are you
Oh
there?
yeah.
Oh yeah, you're frozen in time. It was very,
I'm
very
sorry.
cute.
Yeah. Well,
I, I, you know, We should wager. We should do a wager.
Okay.
A good thing we don't have Covenant eyes on our phone, because I don't know. I think he's truthful and serious, even though his actions don't support that he's not going to run and that he wouldn't take it from Kamala, because they're friends,
Mhm.
right? They're colleagues and friends, and I don't know if they'd backstab each other to get to the presidency like that.
Well, there could be a backroom deal too. We don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
Even her numbers in that latest poll show that she's only one point better than Biden against Trump. So you know, it may be one of those deals where they go, "Listen, Kamala, we know you think you're next in line, but we got to try to. There's going to be no line if we don't win."
It's true. Just looking at what's happening on the stand, and I know this story came from HuffPo, because we don't have, cameras in the courtroom for live coverage, but they say that Trump actually on the stand admitted to adjusting property valuations. And here's the back and forth. The Assistant Attorney General, Kevin Wallace, says, "Did you ever think the values were off in your statement of financial condition?" And Trump responded, "Yes, on occasion, both high and low." Probably, I said I thought it was too high. I don't know if that's too high anymore because I'm seeing things sold at numbers that are very high. I was very busy in the White House. My threshold was China, Russia, and keeping our country safe. Just for the record, Wallace said, "You weren't president in 2021? No, I wasn't." This
Okay.
back and forth is wild. And it is really a campaign speech and less of a defense.
Mhm.
So it almost like it doesn't matter what he says. As you said, that as long as he's the fighter and comes out swinging, as long as he's belligerent and angry, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah,
Just,
I mean, he's really got that angry grandpa
yeah.
thing down, doesn't he?
Yeah. I don't mean to keep coming back to it, but it's happening as we speak. And it's really interesting. We've got something happening in California where, we're going to start treating the mentally ill
Mhm.
that are on our streets. This is a story. It's kind of the Governor Gavin Newsom's care court situation,
Okay.
right? The highest, let's see, it's called Proposition 1. Governor Gavin Newsom posting this ad on social media where he says mental health has to be addressed differently and the state has to lead the way. He says he feels the system is broken with too many people living on the streets, and this will help the most vulnerable get out of tents and get into the care they need. California voters get their say when Prop 1 appears on the March ballot. This is a way to get, I guess, force people into some type of care. But at the same time as he's saying this, another story popped out. We know at least 1/3 of the nation's homeless vets are in California. So a lot of people living on the street have served our country.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I would argue that we owe them more than we're giving them, you know?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, that's I think
Yeah.
what I was saying. Uh, for Newsom, though, isn't this another opportunity to say, "Look, I'm the guy that's attacking the mental health crisis, and look, if the big concern with all these mass shootings is mental health, then we're going to tackle it head on, and we're actually doing something about it."
Yeah.
Right? I mean, hey, look at me! I'm the one
Yeah.
who's fixing things. So again, I think there's probably some genuine concern here, and he's trying to be a leader, but I also think he's setting himself up for political runs. I don't see the downside for Newsom in pushing this.
I don't know if the rest of the country is going to go for Newsom. I mean, when he ran for governor, those ads were, whether you like it or not, right?
Yeah.
Where I mean, and so the rest of the country is going to see that and going to think, "Wow, this is liberal at its extreme." And I don't know if that plays for middle America. I don't know if Newsom can pull it off.
Okay, so let's flip the script. And what we just talked about with Trump is he's showing strength and he's going to fight for what you believe in. And
Yeah.
if you've got progressive America and you go, "Listen, I got to fight, and whether you like it or not, we're going to help these homeless veterans," right?
Yeah.
And he's going to start pushing it. I'm the powerful guy who's going to fight for what you need to have. And there's a lot of scary things coming from the fascists on the right, and they all want to put guns in the Sunday schools, and we're going to fix that, right?
Yeah.
And no one's going to get in my way. And so, we're seeing a shift to a populist movement right now, and that populism is playing, and it's not just playing for the right; it'll play on the left too, because they've been conditioned for it. They've seen what's going on the right, and they go, "Wow, we can't keep taking punches here and expect a rope a dope. We're going to have to get up and fight a little bit."
Well, you might be onto something because I saw
Of
another
course I
story
am. I'm
today
brilliant.
that David Axelrod, who was the an advisor to a strategist for former President Obama,
Yep.
he has warned President Biden, because of the results of this latest poll, that it's time to decide and reconsider running against Donald Trump. I don't know if Biden does that. I mean, he was told last time, you got to run because you're the only hope of beating this guy, and he did.
Yeah.
So
Look,
I don't.
he was a warm blanket at the
Yeah,
time, right? The country was feeling so upset, so frustrated, and this was before January 6th, right? And we said
yeah,
we need a steady hand at the helm, and we need someone that we can trust. And Biden seemed like the most trustworthy guy out there. He seemed like reliable grandpa who was always going to bring you a Werther's
yeah,
original at Thanksgiving, and he was going to, he was going to slip you an extra scoop of ice cream, right? And that
yeah,
was kind of his appeal. Is he was a very trustworthy, likable individual, and we felt comfortable with him.
yeah.
And now he's the incumbent. He's going to run on his record, and his record isn't bad. But boy, is it being hammered. People don't. Again, they don't really recognize that the economy is doing pretty well considering. But it's still affecting people on Main Street. And when the cost of gas is really high, and you're trying to fill up your 3/4 ton diesel, people are going, well, this is Biden's fault. This is on that guy. And Trump goes, well, when I left office, gas was like 250 a gallon. Well, yeah, because we were a pandemic and nobody was driving and the bottom fell out, but it doesn't matter. They're running on that. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that. Well, when Trump left office, gas was only whatever. And I go, well, yeah, well, when Trump left office, unemployment was at 12% too, because we had the pandemic going on.
I don't know how a president fixes that, the inflation at the grocery stores and the price of everything. I don't know how that's even fixable.
No, it has way more to do with the Fed and the interest rates and consumer confidence and all those sorts of things. Offering a steady hand is probably the best way that they can do it. Is saying, listen, we're on it, we're looking at it, we care about you. They can't go into the grocery store and change the prices, and if they did, you'd have people screaming about communism. So,
Right.
They can't do a whole lot, but they're going to take the blame for all of it. They'll also take the credit if things are going well. They'll take the credit for all of it too. So,
Well, it's true that, I don't know, 3 years ago we're paying a lot less than we're paying today. It's hurting us in this house.
sure.
So I think that that's something all Americans feel like
Mark,
intimately.
yeah. Oh, I feel bad for you. You got to cover Mark's show just to make
Just to make things work. I'm running out of my Chris Merrill time, so I'll ask you. I haven't asked you about what you thought about the Trump children on the stand last week. I saw that there are some people saying Eric Trump needs to shut his mouth. Ivanka trying to get out of the whole thing by saying I'm a mom and weekdays are bad for me, and then you have Donald Trump Jr. on the stand telling the court reporter to make me look sexy. Yeah.
Did you see the show Succession? Because
Yes.
the more I watch this family, the more I go, it's not the Murdochs, it's the Trumps.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, all of them from the ambitious and almost capable son to the just dim-witted son who they keep on the fringes to look Tiffany Trump. Where is she? She's just gone. She always has
No.
gone,
Yeah.
right? And then all of us are kind of at home. We're looking at Barron Trump, who's like 8'3". He kind of looks like cousin Greg from Succession. We're like, oh, maybe he could be the innocent guy who doesn't turn out all screwed up. But look, it's in his genes, So I mean, it's all there. Yeah. So it's just a circus, and they played the part. They came out, they trained the elephants, they tamed the lions, they did exactly what they were supposed to do for the circus. And people bought their peanuts and their souvenirs, and his approval rating goes up. So they did what they needed to do.
What do you think? This might be a stupid question. What do you? I mean, you've kind of pulled out your crystal ball and said that Newsom is going to be the Democratic candidate.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Newsom versus Trump. Newsom versus Haley. What do you think? And in the Chris Merrill,
I'm going to say
Newsom who? Newsom Trump?
Yeah, because I think the only thing that takes Trump out is the legal issue. Unless there's a medical emergency, I think the only thing that takes him out is the legal trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't think the timeline works for him to be removed.
So who wins in that hypothetical Merrill matchup?
I think Newsom actually would beat Trump.
Really?
Yeah, I do, because as much as Trump is, he's basically an incumbent. We have a weird election where we have an actual incumbent and a kind of incumbent running against.
Mm-hmm.
Newsom's track record is in California. They're going to hammer things like the French Laundry, right? They're going to hit that really hard.
Yeah.
It would be funny to see like some on the left that are like, how good is Newsom's judgment when he married Kimberly Guilfoyle? That sort of thing. It doesn't matter at all, but it'll be kind of funny to see. But I think just the idea of, okay, well, at least the guy doesn't start World War III on Twitter. I think
Yeah.
there's some of that, some of the
Yeah.
same concerns that voters had in 2020, they're going to have about Trump in 2024. And if there's an alternative that they feel comfortable with, who is healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to look at that and say, all right, well, let's give him a shot.
We're playing worst case scenario at my dinner table last night,
Yeah.
where if we have a Trump win in 2024, what does that mean for the country? And does it mean that people need to try to leave while they can? We saw there's a story today where he's already plotting plans to exact revenge on anyone who's spoken out against him.
Yeah.
Not that I'm important at all, but I mean, I've spoken out against him. And so does that mean that people need to check out? Does America survive a Trump presidency, a second one?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I can't even tell you how many times I've heard the country can't survive 4 more years of insert name here.
Mm-hmm.
Every challenger says that about the incumbent. And yeah, look, we survived the first 4 years. We'll survive the next 4 years. I've read articles about how, listen, now he knows how the game is played. Now he's even more dangerous. Yeah, well, so do the American people. We know how he works. I do think that there are safeguards in place, and he's challenging those safeguards. He's challenging them in a way that have never been challenged before. And as much as he complains about the government, the DOJ being weaponized, I mean, he's come out and said, my plan is to weaponize the government and the DOJ. But I do think that there are safeguards in place, and I look, my personal opinion is he's not the right guy for this country, and he's going to set us back a ways, and we're seeing the populist movement going on. But maybe we need a reminder of how bad things can get, and then we sort of course correct, and then flourish after that. But in the meantime, yeah, we'll survive.
Chris Merrill, I adore you. You look great. It's so good to see your face.
It's your face.
Your face.
Yeah, I trimmed my beard, lumberjack beard, for this, because you should have seen it. I was looking really like I just crawled out from under a log in the deep woods. So
no, you look well shorn in your cottage underground bunker studio, looking good.
Look at this. I got to get my plugs redone here too. So I don't like to look at myself on camera for that reason, right there. Look at that.
Well, have a great rest of your day on the radio. Thank you for being on the Mark Thompson Show. Rest assured, I will be calling on you again.
Good. Love you.
Love you. Bye, Chris Merrill.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.